if these clouds become too much of a distraction, say something. Otherwise, it may get a little airy. So let's start with a little explanation, even though explanations don't really go anywhere. For the people that haven't heard this message is just a message to no one, which is different from many other messages, because it's only pointing. It's not really carrying information for anyone. It's only pointing to the phenomena that there is no one, that there is no one attending, that there is no one listening, that this isn't talking to anyone. It's just talking. And the talking is actually pointed to what is actually there and what has always actually been there, which is the nameless. The nameless, everything, all there is, all that has always been without beginning or end, and that will always be there. Rather than what most people are accustomed to knowing as themselves, as separate beings, separate from all there is, with separate lives, rather than all there is being everyone, all at once, as oneness or wholeness, without separation. So these words won't make sense to the one that wants to make sense out of everything. These clouds are just clouding, doing what clouds do for no reason. They just do it. People give it an explanation and come up with names for the clouds and cloud chemistry and weather science and all that to make sense so that they feel more comfortable around clouds. so that they can predict or try to predict what will happen next with the clouds. Will there be tornadoes? Will there be a hurricane? Will there be rain? Will there be a drought? What are we going to do? We need to know all of these things so we can be safe, so we can survive. All 8 billion of us separate beings, separate individuals, until we're not, since we already aren't separate, and we never were separate. There already is no separation. The message is being spoken to here is being spoken by all there is. And its focus, it's pointing to all there is. So in a sense, all there is talking to all there is talking to itself. All there is talking to all there is. It's not talking to Dan, it's not talking to Lisbeth, it's not talking to Liz. It's talking to what is already there and always has been there. So does that stir up any curiosity on the part of anyone? Is anyone feeling curious? These clouds have no curiosity. They have no need for information. This has an attraction for distractive videos. From here, there's really not a big interest in having a comfortable meeting, at least to the point of, well, let's say this is not interested in so much in having the separate self feel comfortable, or in directing anything, any information, any words at all to that separate self. So if there's a little discomfort, or if there's a little distraction, or if there's anything unusual, it's that separate self that's likely to be feeling it. So a little discomfort may be okay. So this has already told some of you that the retreats that Steve went to wore him out. and that was part of the benefit, or that was part of the resonance of those retreats. The retreats were not there to make Steve feel comfortable. They were there to present a message to what's already there and to what's already okay, always. And that all there is that's already always there is only seen when that illusory, that dream, or that idea of self that everyone's so attached to, that all selves are attached to, falls away somehow. Then what's always been there is there, seeing what's always been there. These clouds just go on forever. They really feel comfortable, soft, moist, light. So the feeling here is just cloudy, cloud-like. Wispy. Somehow welcoming to no one. Somehow form and somehow formless. Somehow endless. This must be what pilots feel like. Although they probably prefer to fly above the clouds. Or perhaps they're restricted to flying above the clouds and looking down on them. This has never been a pilot, so that's not known. We have a little lightning. A little electrical energy. So are those me's or those you's? Concerned about these clouds? Are those me's or those you's or those I's? Trying to do anything? That's what they're good at, is trying. Trying perpetuates them, keeps them alive, keeps them going, keeps them dreaming, keeps them thinking, keeps them understanding, controlling, emotionalizing. Being. Even keeps them aware, keeps them conscious, keeps them meditating, keeps them on their path. There's no path up here. I see no path. In fact, it's difficult to tell one cloud from another. Difficult to see where one cloud stops and another cloud starts. It's just cloudy. So a lot of words have been thrown at these clouds. Didn't seem to do anything. They're still there, still clouds, just not even clouds, they're just this. They're just what is. They're just it. They're just that. They're just those. And yet, there's something about those clouds that is what? Special, profound, miraculous, infinite, still more words, and the clouds stay the same. Just like all there is, everywhere there is, just is. Beyond explanation, beyond any word. Just there and not there. Apparently there. Just like this is apparently this here. It's all the same there is. It's all everything. It's all the words that have ever been used and more. So then it's called silence. When the words stop, even silence doesn't describe it. How is it that something so huge, so infinitely there and perhaps not there, be so profound and yet so beyond words? Some people apparently have just stopped talking. They've just stopped talking when the words just never go anywhere. So why talk? Yeah, it's all still there. Words are not. Why bother? So Apparently, some people have gone years without saying a word. And at the same time, there are words. There are words for what they're worth, which isn't much. So this no thing is really something. How can that be? How can that even be? Yet it is, apparently. I have to throw apparently in there. That's part of it. That's part of the infinite, the apparent infinite. So all this can do is sit and smile at what this appears to be. Beyond words, even beyond perfection, even beyond miraculous. Happen in the stomach from a lack of words to describe everything. That must be why there's a lot of silence in meetings. And then words will pop up periodically. And there'll be talk about words. And then more silence. Sometimes the meetings are just silent meetings. Well, when Steve started his little endeavor, a new non-dual endeavor that he thought he was going to do, he had no idea or conception or feeling about what would be seen. It's so different. What's seen here is so different than what Steve expected or didn't expect. It's just and at the same time, it's it's still, everything is recognizable. Everything is recognizable. Steve still knows the neighborhood, the town. Well, let it be said that this still knows all that. It still recognizes Encinitas and the neighborhood, and it all is recognizable. It's all apparently the same as it's always been. It's just not. It's just not the same anymore. It's just laughably, wonderfully beyond description. And what's seen now is that Steve didn't have to go anywhere, didn't have to do anything. He wasn't even there. He's never been there. There's still a word out there, Steve, floating around that this will respond to, just like a sound. It's just like a sound that a crow would make or something that's recognizable. What's seen now is that there never has been a Steve. There's no need for a Steve. And Steve, that Steve, was never able to see what this sees. As hard as Steve would try, in the retreats that Steve went to, Steve thought he was still making an effort to disappear. That's what Steve did some disappearing acts. And then Steve got caught up in the disappearing and looked for explanations for why he was disappearing. And that's how he ended up here. But even the disappearing was still Steve disappearing. Now that there's no Steve, there's no disappearing. There's just...
I just wanted to ask about resonance.
Yes.
I saw one of your videos before, and you were saying about when you're at those retreats, there was a strong resonance. Yeah.
Yes.
It just came up now. So that resonance, when Steve dropped away,
Yeah.
it's a difficult question to ask, but was it that resonance? Was it just sort of, let's say it's hard to ask this, but was it similar to what when Steve dropped away, or can you not explain? Is it a similar feeling, or because there's a strong resonance here?
Yes.
But then there's like the me comes back after a meeting or something, and I'm just wondering. Sorry, it's hard to ask the question.
That's a good question.
Okay.
Yeah, because what is this resonance, and who has it?
Exactly. Yeah.
So again, this is another explanation that is apparent. attempting to explain apparent
Yeah.
energy, apparent energy. So the resonance that seems to be involved in the identity falling away is it's a resonance within the resonance of the energy. Okay.
Wow.
When someone new comes to a meeting,
Yeah.
very likely that if they're hearing the word resonance, it's what they are feeling as a separate self. I resonate with this, or I resonate with that, or that feels the way that it feels to me.
Yeah.
The resonance that the message is talking is pointed at already there.
I want to say I get that, but at the beginning of this meeting, it was like Dan wasn't there. You know, there was just like the clouds. There was just this space. I guess there still was a remnants of Dan, but yeah, it was just. I suppose nothing would be a good way to explain it. Yeah,
Yes.
like the mind. There was just nothing in the mind. It was just clear. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. When there's no separate one there,
Yeah.
when the separate one is no longer there, there's nothing. There's no thing. There's no one to see. There's only a seeing.
Yeah.
So there can be temporary moments of clarity, of resonance, of and in this case, there were moments of disappearance for days.
Wow.
Until Steve came back. But until there's a permanent oneness, a permanent falling away of the illusory self, there's the self doing it still. Steve, when he was here and he disappeared for 4 days. It was Steve disappearing for 4 days. It was still Steve, even though he was gone for 4 days. It's now it's different.
Yeah.
Now that Steve is not there, there's no longer disappearing. There's no longer anyone to disappear. There's no one. There's just this.
Yeah.
So before that crazy separate self leaves permanently, it's still doing whatever it's doing until it's not there to do it. So it can fool itself into enlightenment, for years.
Yeah.
In fact, Steve had experiences like that. but that's more story. But anyway, until that separate self is totally gone, it's still fiddling in the background. Even, it's said here in this message that it's the self that has awareness. It's the self that has consciousness.
Yeah.
It's the self that does the meditating, even though it doesn't seem like it.
Mm.
There's still a self there doing it. Little teeny one.
Yeah.
Until there's not. And then it's just like a knife. A knife comes in and that separation is complete. It's done. There may be, there is a what? Like some speakers have said that there's a period after falling away, that there is a change. There's like a change that continues. Like here, since Steve disappeared in the end of April, there's been a change, like ongoing, some kind of ongoing change where things have just been feeling lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. And just seem to be getting lighter and lighter. That sort of thing. But it's happening to no one. It's just happening. It just is. It's just like a flower blooming, or it's just like a tree growing. It's still a tree, but it just gets bigger, or it grows a certain way, or it loses its leaves. It's still a tree.
Yeah.
So what is seen here is that the more that a person is exposed to the seeing talking, that's exposed to the seeing that's talking, the more the separate identity seems to, there is a kind of weakening, a kind of shrinking. At least that's what is remembered here. There was a from the first retreat, Steve was in there asking questions, and then as time went on, there were fewer questions, and Steve seemed to just kind of shrink and sit there and just observe, or watch, and not be so active. There was less action, and that just seemed to continue until there was nothing left. And that also seemed to be encouraged by the length and the amount of the meetings. They were retreats. Steve did two weekend retreats. One was 3 days and one was 4 days. There were sort of 3 meetings a day or something like that.
Mm.
And very little's remained remembered from those meetings, except how tired Steve got.
Yeah.
So that environment seems to have something to do with the dream falling away or the dream stopping.
Yeah.
But maybe not, because some people just kind of fall away.
Yeah.
One time. They go poof without smoke.